also include sun and moon in the Indian traditional astronomical picture. The extraordinary light which they had appeared to cast on the history and antiquity of the East made everywhere great impressions, and men engaged with eagerness in the study of history, etc. They went and probed into that. Our Panchanga essentially lists Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, Yoga, Karana. So all of them are units of time. All of them are units of time, and these units of time are based upon the motion of these objects. Primarily, the time-keeping systems is sun and the moon. So our cosmology, the study of cosmology, so is primarily sort of confined to this. Okay, so it is not probing into the mysteries of the creation. There has been a serious concern which has been expressed by one of the astronomers. He says, Naste kalavaiva kalana yatra drikshastra siddha shrauta smarta vyavaharitirapi chhidyate tatra dharma. So in fact, the very purpose of the Jyotish Shastra, as they say, Vedahi yajñartham abhipravrittaha. In knowing the time, so it is this motion of these objects that helps us, and in knowing the motion of these objects, we need to develop mathematics, and that is where Jyotish Shastra comes into picture. So in the context of trying to figure out the motion of the celestial objects more and more accurately, they developed certain mathematical tools which ultimately sort of led to the foundations of calculus. Understanding something to be infinite, okay, as a number, okay, infinity is one number, infinite is a concept, and 0 is another concept, and void is the concept related to the number 0, and here both of them were sort of part of our philosophy. So this Tithi, Vara, Nakshatra, so this Vara has to do with the motion of the other 5 objects. So we have sun, moon, and apart from sun and the moon, which can be observed and which will be observed by every human being. So whether you see Mercury or not, well, you cannot afford to say that I have not seen sun, I have not seen moon. These are the 2 objects which are primarily time-keeping systems, and the moon roughly takes 27 days, and the time it takes to cover a certain segment is what we define as nakshatra. So nakshatra is one of the panchangas, Tithi is one of the panchangas, and we have something called Vara. So sun, moon, and then the 5 planets which are observed by a human being through the naked eye, so they form another 5. So this is why we have the 7-day week.
This is session 5, and we have 3 speakers. The first speaker is Dr. Sharada Srinivasan.
It was the work of Ananda Kumara Swami writing his essay, The Dance of Shiva, which really kind of elucidated these aspects of the Shiva Nataraja bronze, where he described the 5 activities of the Panchakritya, Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Tirobhava, Anugraha. I don't need to translate all these to you. And he had famously written, creation arises from the drum, protection proceeds from the hand of hope, from fire proceeds destruction, and the foot held aloft gives release. This is a modern artwork that you're looking at there by a Belgian surrealist, which captures some of this idea of creation and destruction and so on. At the Chidambaram temple, you have this worship of the Nataraja bronze as the Akasha Lingam, which is equated to space. And it's the only shrine where the Nataraja is actually worshipped in the innermost sanctum, next to a curtain space which is described as the Akasha Lingam. As I was mentioning here, this was a bronze for which again this star chart plotting was done, and the leg is again seen, pointing towards Sirius and the stars falling around the body. There is this manuscript which was found at Chidambaram, and again this was something that Raja Dikshitar had been able to furnish me, which actually shows this very clear drawings of some of the star positions of Orion, and below that it's written in Tamil, the Arudra Tandava Nakshatram, which is the festival related to the dancing Shiva.
Understanding our scriptures requires changing our common sense view of the world. If you want to understand science, you must absolutely distinguish between experience and reality. So science in this way actually has got a peculiar disconnect with common sense realism. It presupposes it. Scientific theories are our mental constructions. So particles, waves, atoms, electrons don't exist in the world. They exist in our mind. This one is actually connected to the phenomenal world. Scientific theories can predict experiences, but it is not connected to this world. Does the moon exist? Here is my last solution. Here is the last slide that I will explain. Two kinds of moon can exist. One is the moon in the sky, the other is the moon inside the window. The moon in the sky exists whether you look at it or not, but the moon inside the window cannot exist unless you look. Similarly, there can be two kinds of macroscopic objects that can exist. The classical thing, the object that exists there. The other one, which is in relation to, the book is in relation to you, but in quantum theory I'm showing it's a science because the quantum object exists only in relation to the detector. Vedic knowledge, science actually is superior to modern science. And if you want to understand the Vedic knowledge scientifically, we have to actually elevate current science. Epistemology is how do we go from knowledge to, experience to knowledge. Ontology is once removed from experience. This is, right, empirical object, microphone, is given in experience. Electron, you cannot see, but it can have visible consequences in experiments. So it's once removed from. Now the scientists claim is soul and God are metaphysical. They are twice removed from experience. You cannot see them and there is also no experimental consequence.
In the Rig Veda itself, in the 10th mandala, mostly in the 10th mandala, so many hymns on creations have come. One is Vishwakarma Sukta, and the other one is the Hiranyagarbha Sukta, and then the most important is the Nasadiya Sukta, and then we have the famed Purusha Sukta. In the Nasadiya Sukta, Acharya, while commenting upon the very first hymn, Nasadasin no sadasit tadanim tamasi tamasa guldhamagre, he says, tadanim, idanim, like that, the very term of tense, kala, is a paradox. There is no time, but to describe the indescribability, we are adhering to the grammatical rules of past, present, future and all that. In the Purusha Sukta, we have how from one Purusha came the whole universe. And then we have in the Atharva Veda several suktas connected with Skambha, the supreme concept of the sublime pillar, the cosmic pillar, and also Vichishta. Vichishta means the ultimate remainder, the cosmic remainder. It is very similar to Atyatishtat Dashangulam. Beyond that, there is something else indescribable yet experienced. In the Upanishads, Aitareya, it speaks of Purusha entering into the body and how the so-called inanimate, the Jada, becoming the animate, the Chaitanya. Ears representing the directions, eyes representing the sun, and then the mind being represented by the moon, breath being represented by the wind, something like that. The moksha of Sankhya has nothing like Ananda, it has only Sat and Chit, not Ananda. But in the Vedantic view of moksha, we have Sat, Chit, Ananda, absolute existence, absolute awareness and absolute bliss. We have the allusion to creation in the Vishnu Purana, in the second Amisha, and of course even in the first Amisha. And one has to refer to the conversation between Rubho and Nidhaga. It's a tremendous treatise of the seeming reality of the world and also the eternity of Chaitanya. And there a lot of details regarding Srishti is given. Truly speaking, na Srishtyam Paramarthata. It's said by Gaudapada in the Mandukya Karika. And in that sense, the Puranic creation has to be realized. The cosmology of Purana has to be seen in that sense. And so is the cosmology of Indian folk, to which Vedas and the Puranas have contributed a lot.
We know by Kepler's first law, the planets go around the sun, for example, in an elliptical orbit with sun at one focus. Well, we have to apply a correction. That is called equation of center. In Indian astronomical text, it is referred to as Manda Samskara. And that follows what is called the epicyclic theory. That means they assume the real planet moves in a small circle with center on the big circle. Big circle is the mean circle. And on that you see the mean position will be at a certain point. With that as center, you draw a small circle. On that circle, the Manda corrected planet is supposed to move. And how big should I take that circle? our Indian astronomers have given its periphery or the paridhi as it is called. Just because many of you are most mathematically and in physics educated, so I will not go into details. The formula we generally use is A by R sin M, where A is called the mandaparidhi of a body. It could be the moon or sun or any other planet. And R, capital R, is fixed at 360 degrees. And they are all in angles. You may ask, why are they in angles? The ratio is important for them. And in fact, that A by R ratio, which is the ratio, supposedly ratio of circumferences, is also the ratio of radii, because 2 pi is the common factor which gets cancelled. And they have given very correctly, Aryabhata gives it as 13.5 degrees for the sun, and for the moon about 31.5. Incidentally, that very term is represented by the leading term of the modern equation for equation of center, namely 2e sin m. What is m? That is called Manda Kendra, or the anomaly. That is the angular distance of the mean planet from the apogee of the planet. Apogee is the farthest point. So whatever is the angular distance, that is denoted by m. So sine function sin m will be there. So A by R sin m will be there. So that's how you get the equation of center. In modern astronomy, the leading term is 2e sin m, where 2e represents eccentricity of the orbit. Of course, there are other terms. It's a Fourier expansion, but the leading term is 2e sin m. And you can note that this 2e, which is in radian measure, corresponds to our A by R. You can convert it into degrees.
Who am I? A very small question, but if you give the answers for this question, I think umpteen number of boards will not suffice. How was I introduced to you? By my name and from where I come. The name is mine, but I am not the name. Then who am I? You may call it soul, spirit, jiva, Brahman, Atman, Uyir in Tamil, Ruha in Sufism, consciousness in psychology. Whatever name you call it, understand that you are not the physical, the material, the mental self. Just as human life is complex. In this locus swarupa, you have the hand, you have the swastik, you have 3 dots and the crescent moon, and below it there is an aphorism in Sanskrit which says Parasparopa Graho Jivanam, that is, all life is mutually interdependent. Swastik, which is symbolic of the 4-fold existences. This is the Trasnadi. Can you see the pink line? Which says that mobile beings, animals, plants, humans, and the celestial realm is there only within this Trasnadi. Outside it are the infinite microorganisms. This is a picture of the Mount Meru, which is at the center of the Loka. And you have the Jyotish Chakra, which goes round the Mount Meru. And then you have the picture of Jambu Dvipa, which is the island or the continent or the land region which is around the Mount Meru, and it is surrounded by Lavana Samudra. Likewise, you have innumerable lands and water bodies in the Madhya Loka. This is again a picture. We are here in the Bharata Kshetra, Dakshina Khanda. The entire globe, the world map is here, and there are 6 khandas. That reality is characterized by origination, change, and permanence. Here is the web of biosphere, and in this web you will see that man is only a component of the entire web biosphere.
That on particular day, you see up and down, that is here, the blank day, and then that fixed day. What is happening at this particular site? This is seen from here, the southernmost. 2 important contributions. The one important is that there is a shrine called Uttararka. Uttar plus Arka. Arka means Surya, sun god. Uttar north. Then it described in a way like the metaphorical description is like this. So you go up the 7 layers, crossing all the chakra, and from here the light start coming. You concentrate, and then through the nose one can smell it. This way, literary description. This yatra is divided into 5. Same Panchatattva, Panchamahabhutas, 5 divisions. Okay? And then comes 108. You start from the cremation ghat area and return back. This is all GPS measurement. Then another example is Ganesha. Ganesha, called in Banaras terminology, ritual landscape, Vinayaka. who takes care of all the obstacles in your mind and then inspire you to another city is called Kashi Devi. They already come. If you have no time to perform Mitra, go to one Kashi Devi and you can perform that. So this is of the several numerical system. This is an example of cosmos. How this sense of cosmology converted into architectural symbol. This technology, excuse me, I know that reconstructed. This is based on natural. 27 grids into 27 bits. You can 27 and how this talk. How you can set only this somehow a different configuration of that system of naturals just converting into the system of this. Because generally this is propagated in the West that it is called erotic scene. Majority of us just only having 8% of all imagery and so many great books written and huge crowd just going just to say sexual symbols. Why? I don't know. Maybe crazy mind. Something wrong. They don't try to understand this is something unique in whole India.
Now a substance in Jainism has been divided into two major things, that the world is made up of two things, that is living and non-living. A living is called as soul or jivastikai, whereas non-living in Jainism is of 5 kinds, that is dharmastikai, that is medium of rest, or adharmastikai called as medium of rest, akasha, that's space, kal and pudgal. In 5th era, the height of the person, as it is being mentioned in the scripture, Bhagavati and Thanam particularly, shows that a person's height would be 7 hand maximum and 1 hand minimum. A hand is somewhat equal to feet. We would have our height will reduce to 1 hand and our age will reduce probably to 20 years. What is atom according to Jainism is not an atom which is being described in science today. Because according to Jainism, an atom is that, Parmanu is that which is non-sensible, which cannot even be seen through the equipments. It is indestructible, does not have any part. It is whole and it cannot have any parts again. And it is subtlest, it is indivisible, and the most important thing is it has an unobstructed movement. Matter can have two movements. One is abstracted movement, Fusman Gati, which is called as Fusman Gati, and the other is Afusman Gati, which is called as unobstructed movement. Earth is flat on the whole, but what we say universe is a dome shaped according to the recent scholars. And sun and moon moves around the Mount Meru. It's not that Earth moves, but the sun moves.
In the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna clearly states that I am the Supreme, right? Matta parataram na anyat kinchid asti dhananjaya. Now, that's a clear statement. There is nothing higher, no truth higher than me.
It's only 2 myths that I chose that have that, and the other 2 do not start with a watery chaos. Okay, so the fawn, it's the god-goddess, that duality. And the process of that beginning state is the noticing that order needed to happen. And so Mawu goes on to get the other deities and assign them tasks on earth to do the organizing process. There's also scientific observations embedded in these myths. I take the example from Bakuba. One day Bumba was in terrible pain. He retched and strained and vomited up the sun. After that, light spread over everything. The heat of the sun dried up the water until the black edges of the world began to show. Black sandbanks and reefs could be seen. Now, I love this creation myth because he vomits. I mean, what other creation myth have I ever seen where the god creates things by vomiting things out of his body? But the scientific part of it is evaporation. He's describing evaporation. He wants to get rid of the water. He doesn't just get rid of it. He creates the sun. and he knows that the sun is going to evaporate the water. The Zulu, it says at the bottom that that's why they're known as the Amazulu. It's because they came from that place, the sky, right? The male and the female sky god came down. They created people from all the reeds, and those people then went out. So they're considered to be people from the sky.
Aptavakyam shabdaha aptastu yathartha vakta. A person who says something about something as it is. Then, if he doesn't understand that, how can he say something about that as it is? As that is. For that, what we say is, I think our Acharyas and our great sages like Parashara, Vyasa and so many other people use the power of their intuition. We say before the creation, the Prakriti has got equilibrium. And it is associated with three gunas, namely Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And all of them are in a state of equilibrium. At that time, nothing will happen. When there is some sort of disturbance, when Sattva overpowers Tamoguna or Tamas overpowers Rajoguna, etc., then what happens? So creation starts, that's what they say.
Ayurveda considers swasthya or health in its ultimate sense to mean self-knowledge.
The first origin of this creation, whether he formed it all or did not form it, whose eye controls this world in highest heaven, he verily knows it, or perhaps he knows not. This is the translation of that passage. And then after that, Purusha Sukta also contains about the creation of the universe. Hymn about the ultimate Purusha who created the universe is found in Purusha Sukta. And Purusha Sukta, the greatness of Purusha Sukta is that it is found in all the four Vedas. That is the only portion that is accommodated in all the seen earliest in the Rig Veda as the 90th Suktam of the 10th Mandala. And it not only found in Rig Veda, but also Atharva Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, Vajasaneyi Samhita, as well as Taitriya Aranyaka. That is Krishna Yajurveda and Shukla Yajurveda. There are two branches. In both the branches with different, that is notes, different swaras, the Purusha Sukta is found. And Purusha Sukta is also commented upon in Satapatha Brahmana, Taitriya Brahmana, Shvetashvatara Upanishad and Mudgala Upanishad. That is, this is the greatness of Purusha seen in all the four Vedas. And Vedavyasa himself says that the Purusha Sukta is the essence of all the Vedas because it is found in all the Vedas. That is, Vedavyasa is supposed to be the compiler of the Vedas. And he says in the Moksha Dharma Parva of Mahabharata that Purusha Sukta is very much important. Among Puranic texts, it has also been elaborated in Bhagavata Purana in one particular chapter. It also deals elaborately with cosmic creation. Though I am not going to deal with the entire portion of the Purusha Sukta, what it exactly says is that only from the ultimate Purusha, it specifies the Purusha as Narayana, Lord Narayana. The whole universe came into existence.
The ultimate aim of every system of thought is to do away with all sorrows. And almost all schools of Indian philosophy agree with that there are three types of dukkhas called Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika and Adhidaivika. So the Adhyatmika dukkhas are of two types, Sharira and Manasa.